Imagine this. It's election week, and you're voting for your country's parliament on your laptop, not requesting a ballot, not printing a form, actually voting legally through the internet. Now here's the part that would melt American brains. If you don't trust the computer you used, you can vote again, and only your last online vote counts. And if you still feel weird about it, you can walk into a polling place, vote on paper, and that paper vote overrides your internet vote. That's not a Silicon Valley pitch, that's real life in Estonia. And today, I'm going to walk you through how Estonia's online voting works, what you need, why it doesn't instantly collapse into chaos, and the single design choice that changes everything: the ability to revote. By the end, you'll be able to explain this to someone in 20 seconds, and also understand why Americans hear internet voting and immediately picture a dumpster fire. Let's set the stage. In the US, voting is surrounded by a very specific kind of tension. We argue about registration, polling lines, ID rules, mail ballots, machines, recounts, basically the entire pipeline. So when Americans hear you can vote online, the first thought isn't convenience. It's, okay, so who's hacking it? That reaction is not irrational. It's just built from our experience. Huge elections, high stakes, a culture that doesn't fully trust institutions, and a system that varies wildly by state and county. So if I told you, hey, you can vote online from home, you'd probably respond the correct American way. Prove it. Estonia's answer is not trust us, bro. Estonia's answer is, here's the procedure. So what is Estonia quickly? Small country, highly digital government, and they've been doing legally binding internet voting for years, not as a pilot, not as a one city tried it once. It's a real voting method alongside paper voting. And Estonia doesn't open online voting for months like some endless, floating window. It's time-boxed. Online voting starts during election week, on Monday morning, and it ends Saturday evening. Then Election Day happens, and results come after everything is counted. That timing matters, and in a minute you'll see why. Now let's talk about what a voter actually needs to vote online in Estonia, because this is where Americans tend to assume it's just a username and password. It's not. To vote electronically, Estonian voters use national digital ID tools. That can be an ID card with certificates and PIN codes, or a mobile-based ID option. And importantly, Estonia expects you to use a secure device, ideally your own computer or a computer you trust. So the vibe is not log in from a sketchy cafe computer. The vibe is, this is a serious action. Treat it like a serious action. Then you download the official voting application for that election. And this part is quietly important. The application checks your eligibility and shows you the correct list of candidates for your district. Not pick a random name. The correct list. So you open the app, you authenticate, you see the candidates, you make your choice. Now here's where the documentary voice needs to come in, because this is the part that sounds like a spy movie. After you choose, the system encrypts your vote. Then you confirm the vote with a digital signature. In plain English, your vote becomes a protected digital package, and you're essentially stamping it with an identity-confirming signature that says, yes, this came from an eligible voter. Then the vote is forwarded into the vote collecting system. But Estonia doesn't stop at "we received it." They add another layer that's very retention-friendly because it answers the question Americans scream first. How do I know my vote didn't get changed? Estonia provides a way for voters to verify that their vote reached the electronic ballot box correctly, using a separate verification step on a smart device during a short window right after you vote. So you vote on your computer, and then you can check it using your phone. That means the system is designed around the idea that trust isn't a vibe. Trust is something you earn with verifiable steps. Now let's pause and talk about the biggest twist in the entire Estonia system. The thing that makes people sit up and go, wait, that's actually smart. In Estonia's online voting, you can change your electronic vote during the online voting period, not once, as many times as you want. Only the last electronic vote counts. If you're American, your first reaction might be, that sounds like an invitation for fraud. But Estonia's logic is the opposite. Online voting doesn't happen inside a controlled room like a polling place. It happens in your house, your apartment, maybe your workplace. Real life, uncontrolled environment. So Estonia builds in a safety valve. If you feel pressured, if you think someone watched you vote, if you suspect your computer wasn't trustworthy, or if you simply changed your mind, you can vote again later in private. And here's the key psychological point. If a bad actor tries to force you to vote a certain way, they can't be sure you won't re-vote after they leave. That uncertainty is a deterrent. It's like Estonia looked at the problem and said, we can't control your environment, so we'll give you a way to undo influence. Now, here comes the second twist, and this one is the mic drop line you can use at parties. If a voter votes both electronically and by paper ballot, the paper ballot vote is the one that counts. Let me translate into American. You can vote online. But if you later walk into a polling station and vote on paper, your paper vote overrides the internet vote. That's a huge design choice, because it gives voters an escape hatch back into the most traditional, controlled voting environment if they want it. So Estonia basically says, online voting is convenient, but the voter is always allowed to end the story with, I'll do it in person. Now at this point, Americans usually ask the next logical question. Okay, but what about counting? Who opens the votes? Who sees what? How do they keep it secret? Great question. Here's the general idea. First, the system has to handle repeated votes. If you voted online 5 times, the earlier ones are canceled. Only the last one stays. Then, before counting, the system separates the voter's personal data from the vote itself, so the counted votes are anonymized. Then the encrypted votes are opened using a special vote opening key. And this is another detail Americans tend to appreciate. Access to that opening key is not just sitting on one person's laptop like a villain's thumb drive. It's distributed among members of the electoral leadership, so that opening votes is a controlled, observed procedure. Votes are counted. Results are compiled. And the public gets results after the whole election is done. And Estonia describes additional integrity checks after counting. Basically, steps meant to confirm the system behaved correctly. Now let's hit the part where people start throwing, yeah, but what if? Questions like they're at an American Thanksgiving dinner. What if someone adds votes? What if someone deletes votes? What if a dishonest insider tries something? Estonia's election authorities emphasize that the voting process is monitored, audited, and structured so that manipulation would leave traces. Because systems like this rely on logs, signatures, time-stamping, and integrity checks. And Estonia publicly addresses common rumors and myths about voting, like the idea that nobody checks it, or that a single person could quietly change results, or that votes can't be audited later. They take those claims seriously enough to publish detailed explanations of why those myths are wrong, often with very technical detail. Now let's come back to the American brain for a second, because if you're watching this, you might be thinking one of 2 things. Option A, this is amazing. Why doesn't everyone do this? Option B, this is insane. Why would anyone do this? And the truth is, Estonia's system doesn't exist in a vacuum. It's built on a national reality where digital identity is normal and widely used, and where government digital services are integrated into daily life. In other words, Estonia didn't start with internet voting. They built the digital foundation first And then internet voting becomes just one more secure, identity-based service. That's why this topic is so interesting for Americans. Because in the US, we often debate voting reforms as if you can just drop a new feature into a messy system and expect trust to appear. Estonia's approach is more like, build the trust infrastructure, then add the convenience. Now let's do a quick reset, because if you remember nothing else, remember this. Estonia's online voting is time-boxed during election week. You vote using national digital ID tools and an official voting app. Your vote is encrypted and digitally signed. You can verify it shortly after voting. You can re-vote, and only the last online vote counts. And if you vote on paper, paper overrides online. That single line alone would be a 20-minute argument at a US diner. So here's the ending question. No politics, just pure system design. If you knew you could re-vote and override with paper, would you trust online voting more? Or do you still want democracy to live inside a physical building with a pen, a booth, and a sticker? Drop your answer in the comments, because I already know this one is going to split people right down the middle. And if you want more things Americans don't know that are completely real and verifiable, hit subscribe, because the world is way weirder than we think.